And it got 1 million views. So many others reach out to me and say, now I want to work with you.
What helped you to be that person?
Google didn't know my name. How are you building a business if no one knows you? I grew up on secondhand clothes. As a little girl, I wanted to be this businesswoman and provide for my family. And so I had 6 jobs before I was 16. Went to Malaysia, converted to Islam. And one of the things that helped me grow online is the easiest thing that I always say. So there's content that gets views, there's content that gets followers, and there's content that gets clients. This one company reached out to me and said, I want you to do our brand consulting. And I was like, how do you know me? And she sent me a YouTube video and it had 7 views. It's not about how many people see you.
100%.
It's about the right people seeing you.
100%. When you're starting your business, it almost feels like you're dangling all the balls.
Yes, it has a lot to do with not being able to tap into our feminine, and then we get overworked. It's a very masculine way of doing business, and that's why so many women feel burnt out.
You need to balance it.
So there's 2 methods, 3 days in one. My husband taught me this, so amazing. You get so much more done.
And having a man who has a lot of masculine energy, once a woman is too masculine.
The feminists back in the days when I was like,
I have to be the strong.
Everything by myself. I'm the CEO of the company.
Yes.
Now I would be happy to say he's the CEO,
but
he needs to understand. Like, if you don't work with your husband, like, this is for you. Number 1,
what would you suggest? Scared to share their voice?
Niche just doesn't work for us. Use this method and grew 10,000 followers in a week. What she did is
Zina, I have been seeing you online since a long time, and I've been a fan all the time.
Thank you.
What I love about Zina is, and I was telling her as well, I love how she is just making you feel so calm and so confident just by being here. That's her personality, which I love. And that's exactly what you feel online. Before we go deeper into how to find your personality and make people feel that certain vibe, I would love to know, how did you come to where you are right now? Your story. Would you like to get us into it? Who's Zina?
That is obviously a big question. I think it's always really hard to kind of like condense everything that you've experienced in your life. But so I'm German, we're both German, so that's what we have in common.
Yes.
I come from a very small village in Bavaria, so I didn't grow up Muslim, I grew up Christian, but I still felt like the odd one out because my father was the only Black man in our neighborhood.
Wow.
And in school, high school, I was always the only brown girl in school. And so I always felt like, the odd one out. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but a lot of women can relate to this idea of, I have so many big dreams and I know where I want to go, but no one believes in it. And everyone who hears your dream, they're just like, who do you think you are? You're just in this village, in German we call it Kaff, right?
Yes. I'm from a Kaff too, by the way.
And I still have this village girl in me. Like, I really appreciate growing up on around nature, being able to 5 minutes you're on the field, there's no one there. You really get to know each other, yourself.
True.
But it's also very a small town mentality. So no one ever got out of the village. No one ever did anything other than, finish high school, go get a good job, maybe travel a little bit on your vacation, and that's it. And I already knew when I was 12 years old, I want to leave Germany.
I love that.
That was the one thing that I knew. And I did everything. So I grew up in a very, my parents didn't have a lot of money. They were very young parents. They both, it's their story to tell, but they both became very independent very early on. And then they had my brother and myself. And they just wanted to provide everything they could. And so, I grew up on secondhand clothes. I don't know if you can relate to this, or anyone out there. My mom used to tell me actually a story that she had to go to court in Germany to ask for extra clothes for us, because we used to get clothes once a year.
Yeah.
And she had to tell the court that kids need a different shoe size twice a year because we grow so fast. And she said, this moment, I realized I need to, I never want to go back to that again.
Yeah.
And they really worked hard, but we never gotten out of this, thing. And so I always felt as a little girl, I want to be this businesswoman and I want to have all these businesses and provide for my family, but I didn't know how. And so all I knew was we didn't get pocket money. Because my parents provided everything we needed, food, shelter, clothes, but everything extra, like all my like friends in high school, they all went out to movies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I had to pay for that myself.
Yes.
And so I had 6 jobs before I was 16. And I learned so much. And I think one of the things that you learn when you do a lot is not necessarily what you like, but what you don't like.
I love that. I can relate to that a lot. So yeah.
And so at 16, I already knew like I like sports. I don't like to like just sit around. I don't like boring tasks. I like to teach. Like I did a lot of like dance teaching and did my tennis coach license when I was 16. I was the youngest there. Because my initial plan, like this is really a turnaround. Like my initial plan was I wanted to become the next Serena Williams.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to become a professional tennis player.
Okay.
We couldn't afford any tennis coaching, so my father did the coaching for us.
Nice.
And so I went to like a lot of competitions. But the thing is, tennis is a very like elite sport.
True.
And so in Germany, you have to pay, I think everywhere, but you have to pay to go to competitions.
Yes.
And at some point it was just too much. And I thought, what can I do with this skill? Okay, let me become a coach. Because, if you fail in sports, you become a coach.
Oops.
But I already knew like at 16, what I told my tennis, like I finally had a tennis trainer at this time. And I said, if I become your assistant and I help you with other students, are you going to give me a discounted price on my own lessons?
Wow, you're already, that was in your blood already to negotiate, and communication is like the key when we're building personal brands, right? We'll talk about it. Yeah. I got some tears in my eyes when you were talking about your story because I can relate to that, definitely. Yeah. Knowing that you come from Bavaria, me, somebody who got raised in Germany, I know that it's even harder there because it's pretty conservative as well. So my mom raised me myself, by the way, so I can relate to everything that you're saying. And looking at you now, mashallah, you're so strong and you are that feminine power. And there's still a journey ahead, right? Yes. I mean, you got a child and everything. Yeah. We're growing. And I want to talk about this as well, because I have the feeling like a lot of people, they feel like there's one certain point instead of seeing it as really as a journey that we're sharing, right? And then overthinking it. So a lot of things came up to my mind while you were talking about it. But I'm curious about this because you mentioned the shift that you went through and all the ideas and thoughts you had in your mind.
Yeah.
What helped you to challenge that, to know which way to go? Or where to start to shift over? I mean, you converted, you had so many shifts. You were 16, you moved abroad, you were in Malaysia by yourself. Yeah. There were so many challenges. Yeah. What helped you to overcome that, to be that person that we're looking at now?
I think it's a really good question. I think when you go through your journey, you always only realize the lessons later on. And so I knew at 18 I wanted to leave. I went to Malaysia during my studies. I was there alone in a different country, at the end of the world. And at one point I got to know Islam and I converted to Islam. And that's when my whole perspective changed. And I think the first shift was out of pain because I was like, I need to leave Germany right now. And anyone who lives in a cold country in winter,
you feel it.
Yes.
True.
And the second shift, the conversion to Islam, that was out of a moment of power. I need to reinvent myself. So I want to become this new person. And I think we all have this moment at some point, the personal rebrand, where we are like, now it's time to get to the next level, but I don't know how.
True.
And so for me, it was just extreme. And I think that extreme part of the story helped me become who I am because I had to start from scratch. I deleted my entire online presence. I cut off friends. Even the friends that I didn't actively cut off, they kind of self-deleted themselves. When you just kind of, that's the thing.
True. There's a filter system automatically, right?
Yes.
Either people go or, you just...
And it's totally fine because you're growing, and if they don't, if they don't fit to the next level of yourself, then it's fine.
True.
But I basically had to reinvent myself from scratch. Google didn't know my name. I was non-existent. And so how are you building a business, having a career if no one knows you? It's so tough. And at that time, I think as a new Muslim, all the personal branding advice just did not fit
to you. Yeah.
You see all I have a lot of love for everyone who I learned from, but people like Gary Vee, you just say if you're on Instagram, if you're a beautiful woman, just show how beautiful you are and you get tons of likes. Use that.
True.
It's I don't even want to show my face. How am I going to do that? And so I had to learn everything from scratch. I created my podcast. It didn't get a lot of views in the beginning, but it started to gain traction once I started telling my story, talking about things that I believed in that should change in the industry, like marketing, branding, business in general. And that's when things started picking up. The funny thing is, I always thought you need a lot of people, you need a lot of views. Like people always see, oh, now you have 100,000 followers. Yeah. Of course you're going to be successful. But at that time, I had 20 views on my podcast. I had brands reaching out to me and telling me they wanted to work with me. They wanted me to help them achieve like the purpose angle of branding. They wanted to help, develop solutions for the Muslim community. And I remember this one company reached out to me and said, I want you to do our brand consulting. And I was like, how do you know? Like, how do you know me? So, research. Where did you find me? I watched this YouTube video and she sent me a YouTube video and the link got to a YouTube video that had 7 views.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, it's not about how many people see you.
100%.
It's about the right people seeing you.
100%.
And so the more you tell your story, the more you feel comfortable, the more people reach out. And like, I always say, like, just do more. Yeah. Because the reason why I knew very quickly what I wanted and what I didn't want was I had 6 jobs when I was 16. Yeah. The reason why I knew what I wanted to do for my business is because I just tried. I did my podcast, YouTube channel, like started training people, started working with companies. I just said yes to everything. True. And so I feel like the more you do, the more you learn what you want to do and the more confident you become.
Right. It sounds so simple, but it is eventually, because I believe, as you said it, we all have an impact to share into this world. Each one of us has a different story where we rooted into something. And now it's like almost like everyone is trying to get to the flow where everyone is going to, instead of, like you said it, using your voice and explaining your own story, which makes it so much more valuable because you've experienced it. It's not something you saw from somebody else. No, you felt it. And people feel it when you're authentic and true to yourself. And I love that you always focus on it, and trying is so crucial. Not just focusing on a number. Yeah, I need to go viral to get more eyeballs. What if you have 10 people, but those are like pure fans? Yes. They love what you're doing. They feel, like I said it when you were talking, I had tears in my eyes. There is an emotion. Yeah. That's what we are missing, I believe, currently with all the personal brands, because people are just looking for the fast success. Yeah. Instead of looking for something sustainable where they can grow, right? So looking at you, there's no path that you cannot choose because you're authentically you. What would you suggest for people to find themselves besides just, because trying, a lot of people fear that trying because they're scared to share their voice. And I know that you tell people as well, and I love this example you're giving with the butterfly, that you attract people, right? It's not that you're chasing them. You cannot chase a butterfly. Yeah. I'm quoting Sina now because I know she's saying that example. That's like visually so, so beautiful to look at. You cannot chase a butterfly, but you can attract it with your beautiful colors, with who you are, right? Yeah. So what would you suggest to find that and to be confident in it? Seeing that everyone is doing mainstream, whatever is working, where should people start to find it?
I think the number one, like authenticity is such a like ausgelutscht Wort. Like, how do you say it?
It is, like, right? Everyone uses it. You cannot,
and it doesn't really really mean anything to us, right? So you're authentic with your grandma in a different way that you're authentic with your husband and your friend, right? It's you're a different person. Yeah. And so I always like to say, by the way, if you scroll down on my Instagram, you will see me not being completely authentic when it comes to like how I portray information. So there's always things like, there's phases we go through life, and when you scroll back a year ago, you will see like me talking to the camera, like my 3 tips to, and I look like an AI version of myself because I don't let myself be my personality. And so I went through this myself. I had like ups and downs. And one thing that really helped me was, and the easiest thing that I always say to my mentees is, what happened in your personal life that changed the way you look at your industry, your business, your field? And that makes such a huge difference. Like when in my example, I converted to Islam. Now I looked at, I could do marketing and branding for any brand, and I could make you look really, really good because that's what I'm good at, right?
True.
But I only want to work with brands that actually have a positive impact. And so that is my story.
Yeah.
In personal branding, it's that I converted to Islam and I had to rebrand myself, had to get people to notice me without like cold calling people because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's a very masculine way of doing business. And that's why so many women feel burned out and feel like maybe entrepreneurship is not for me because I don't want to sell myself. I don't want to pitch the whole time. I don't want to hard launch my next program on social media and keep like every single post is about, 20% off if you sign up the next. It just doesn't work for us women.
True.
And so if you'd ask yourself the story, what happened in my personal life that changed the way I look at business or my field or my industry, it will always come down to a very, very personal story. And with every single mentee, I've never had a person that we didn't both break out in tears when I hear their story. Yeah. Because it has so much to do with either pain or even happiness, getting out of pain.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's something that happened in our childhood or in that reinvention, phase. Yeah. And so it's really, really deeply connected to who we are. And as women, that's what makes us so unique. We can connect to our intuition. We can connect to our why. And so this idea of the garden, you don't chase butterflies, you attract them with your garden. That garden is your personal brand. And once you tell your story, so many people will be able to connect. We always think, and that's the funny thing, there's a TED Talk from, I forgot her name, but she has a Netflix show that's called something with mamas, like cool moms. I don't know, but it's a TEDx talk where she talks about the power of a very specific story. And she talked about the idea. She had this Netflix show and she had to pitch the pilot episode. The pilot episode when you create it, the producers afterwards will say, okay, we'll shoot this or not. And so she created this pilot episode. And at the end of the episode, it was the experience of a woman that is in Canada and she's going on a stroll with her baby into the woods and she sees a bear.
Okay.
And she screams so loud that the bear turns around and leaves. And the director said, this is a horrible story. No one can ever relate to this. Even people who live in Canada will not be able to relate to this. This is too specific. And so she took the story to another production and they shot it and they aired it. And so many women came to her and said, I can relate to this story. Obviously, I'm not going to be like here in Dubai or in Germany and I see a bear and I scream at it. It's not obviously not going to happen, but the feeling of being a mother and protective of your child, every single mother can relate to this feeling. And it was a success. Like the show is a complete success. And so we always think the more specific we are with our story, less people will connect. But I can tell you from experience, I posted my story and my why in November. And after 2 weeks, it got 300,000 views. And so many women came to me. And the interesting thing is, so many women came to me and said, this is my story.
Wow.
This is exactly my story. And they're from Brazil and, I don't know, Indonesia and places. How can you relate to someone who comes from a German village, leaving, converting? Like, it feels so unrealistic. But they literally said, this is my story. And so we just have to be brave enough to tell it.
I love that.
It's gonna be hard. Like, I cried.
Yeah.
I did not want to post it.
Yeah.
I had to ask a really good friend and mentor to edit it for me because I just couldn't. I was like, this is so cringe. I'm not going to cry on social media. What is this? But it's the reason, by the way, your why, your story is the number one reason people will buy from you.
100%.
Because they're going to be like, oh, she went through this. I went through this too. She came out of it. I want to learn how.
True.
I can connect to it. That's why you said earlier, right? People are looking for the numbers, but your clients, and if you listen to your clients, they look for the story. They 100%. Look for the connection.
And I think chasing the numbers, at the end of the day, the numbers doesn't say anything about the conversion or you owning that successful business, right? I mean, for everyone that is a coach, you want to help people. That's what roots you. Or for everyone that's selling anything, having that number but not selling, what does it bring you? I mean, it gives you maybe credibility if you believe it, but honestly, it doesn't. And I want to talk about this as well, how to create that impact and make other people trust that you can help them to make that impact. And I think it already roots from what you said about the story. If you share your story and if you talk, I'll use the word again, I don't know if we can find another word for authentic, but true to yourself and to what you want to achieve, you will attract people to you because of the values you're sharing. And I want to talk more about the values and how deeply they're rooted in us. With you, what just came to my mind as well is that people always think that people will get bored of me. Like, I'm so boring. And you said it's cringe because we grow out of the place, or maybe some traumas that we've experienced. Somebody bullied us for the way we look, or somebody told us that we cannot achieve it. Those were all small traumas that might hold us back now, like the inner child in us. But sharing it and overcoming it and getting help, maybe from a friend that could edit a video, or from a friend that could take a short video of while you're doing whatever you love and post it. So I want to ask again how, because I just love to get the tips from your side as an experienced brand strategist and somebody that helped so many people to find their personal voice and share it. What are your beliefs when it comes to values? And let's say, even when it comes to being on social media and sharing content, because a lot of people think like, I need to talk about this topic and this topic. How do you find your voice in this? Like, I know that you started with a lot of videos where you have certain cuts of scenarios in your life where you show you in the taxi, or, you just cut it randomly. You don't need to speak and talk there,
you want
right?
To be practical.
I want to, yes, as well, but that's your style. So I'm curious how you told us that at the beginning you didn't know how to express yourself. It was a training method as well for you to stick and keep going. How did you find your own style of doing it? Because you talked about, I don't want to call it disruptive, but being different, right? And we're all different at the end. It's not something we have to dig for. I think that's like obvious. We believe we're not. How do you find your style, your edge?
Okay, that's a really good question. So I started with my podcast, and it's called the Shared Diversity Podcast because the idea was, we talk about business, branding, and womanhood, but the idea was the one thing we all share is our diversity. So the diversity we have within us, our experiences, our upbringing, our values, our interests, like they're so diverse, especially as women. And I only talk to women, I'm sorry. Especially as women, we're so multi-passionate. That's why it's so hard for us to like pick a niche and
I love that.
Put ourselves in a box. Like, it just doesn't work for us. And it's obviously like pick a niche is the opposite of what you should be doing if you have a personal brand, because a niche is the opposite of personal. Right? It's like one thing
I love that.
In your life. Yes, you should know like what your expertise is, but don't box yourself into it. And so this shared diversity is really how you find what you're good at. Like, what are all the things that make you different from all the other people around you? And then now you can go and, compare yourself. You can compare yourself to other people in your field, to other people in your expertise, which is different than your field, other people in the industry, other people from your background, from your who maybe look the same as you, who maybe have the same culture background as you. How are you different to that? And so when I started, for example, now I when I go on social media and I see women who look like me talking about self-development and business, I'm so happy, because when I started, there was no one. Everyone just talked about makeup or how to do your headscarf. Like fashion, makeup, that was the thing. And I think it was in all kind of like even like women who don't look like me, it was like a phase. Everyone was on social media was talking about fashion or makeup, but women in general weren't really talking about discipline, how to work for yourself, how to be yourself. And so that could also be in what I call and what I talk about in my mentoring program is your unfair advantage. Okay, anyone who wants to read the book Unfair Advantage is really good. It's more of a concept of how you develop a winning startup, but I used it and I turned it into personal branding.
Love that.
Because everyone has an unfair advantage. Now, how do you find it? It could be the location you're in. It could be your connections. It could be maybe money that you have or don't have. And I always see your unfair advantage most of the time. What will make you stand out on social media is what you think is a disadvantage. So when I first started, one of the things, like, for example, location. Let's say location. I was in Germany. And so I always thought, I need to be in New York. Be successful and like be fun, have fun content that's interesting for people to see. Until I talked to a mentee that lives in New York, and he said, I actually love that you are in a German village, because I don't know how German villages are. Like, how's your day-to-day like? You're going to like the Eiermann, to like the eggman, to get eggs from like the neighborhood.
From the farmer,
And so I was like, that is weird. How is that interesting to people? And so I started sharing it, and people were like, oh, that's like insane. That's crazy. Same with your identity. A lot of people ask me, how are you successful as a woman with hijab in Germany? And I say, because I stand out. When I go to the Adidas office, I'm recognizable. Like, people knew my name before I knew who they were, because I was the one that stood out in the space. When I do keynote speaking in Europe, I'm the only woman with headscarf. A lot of times the only woman. Now, ideally that should change in the future, but what people think is holding me back is actually my unfair advantage, because it's making me stand out.
True.
Right? And so what is helping you stand out? And it could be an experience you had. It could be your identity. One of my mentees used this method and grew 10,000 followers in a week. What she did is she looked at what she went through, and she thought, okay, I have thyroid issues, which obviously she's thinking, this is my disadvantage. What she did is she took these thyroid issues, she talked about how she overcame them through nutrition. And shared like recipes and like thoughts, controversial views around, how do you say, traditional medicine and like, and alternative and your own nutrition. And she went through the roof. Why? Because there were so many women who have thyroid issues who are looking for alternatives. And she just talked about the story. She told me, actually, it's really funny. She called me like, Sina, like, I'm growing like crazy, but I think those are all bots. And I was like, yeah, well, just reach out to them. Like, you can send them a DM.
Is it real? Yeah.
Next day, like, I have 100 DMs of women who tell me they see themselves in me.
I love that.
I guess you don't have to have bots.
So if you believe that you have there's something that is holding you back because it's not true, it might be something you should be using right now to grow.
Yeah.
And try it. I mean, I have the feeling like, because I'm creating content as well, at the beginning what I did was I was keep overthinking, how will it perform without knowing how it will perform? Like, why do I think about it? I don't even know it. Share it and then you can see it.
Yeah.
But we're so triggered on it has to be seen, or the growth we are trying to think about as well to make that impact. We believe that we need to have that. And I want to talk about this as well. What ways to use to gain trust and to share it? Because trust is something that stays for the long term. So how to stay consistent as well, and not give up, because you keep mentioning, right? I mean, the only thing you can do if you give up, you will just give up on the dream instead of keep retrying maybe a different path. And I love to imagine it like just a road that you're taking with your car, and it's blocked. The road is blocked, and there is a reason why it's blocked, right? So take another road. Don't give up on the dream. And I know it's so hard when you're in that moment of growth, personal growth. You feel like something is changing, and as a woman, an inner calling, something you're just screaming for a change, not knowing how. So all of these thoughts that I just had while you mentioned those things, how do you and all your mentees, how do they get along with staying on the path, being clear in that vision? Because as women, we get a lot of ideas. Like even me, when I'm talking to you, I have all those things that I would love to talk about.
So you don't get distracted? Is that what you mean?
Yes, distracted.
Yeah.
As well as consistent over the long term, still feeling aligned to who you are.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to do that? I mean, now we found out our disadvantage, what makes us look maybe weak, what we perceive as it should be not good, which could be even better, because there's a lot of people, they might not see it.
Yes.
Or it's not out there. How does it help us to then keep going? Maybe now we talked about this. What else can I do? I finished my stories, my content about all the things I wanted to share. How can I develop or find out more paths to choose if one is blocked?
Yeah, I think testing is really a really powerful tool. So what I like to do is I just like to create every day. Like if you post every day, there's so many iterations of things you can do. And so I like reposting things in order to see what works.
Oh, okay.
So let's start from the beginning, right?
Yes.
We have our unfair advantage, which a lot of time is in our story our disadvantage. But then how we create should be our unfair advantage. So you mentioned, for example, some of my videos are just aesthetic videos that I shot, behind the scenes videos with voiceover. How did I find this? Number one, one of the things that my husband always makes fun of is that my phone storage is always full. Because I always create, I always take videos, just random videos, because I just love it. I'm not a born videographer. I never actually professionally learned it. I just learned it by doing it because I love it and it's exciting. Other people, for example, you love photography, or I don't know, you're maybe quirky or funny and you make content around this, or you're especially good with voice, and so a podcast would be great. And the other advantage I have is whenever I created content, people would comment on my voice and they would say, your voice is so calm and it's so relaxing.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. It is. And I love listening to it. So I thought, let me just make voiceovers. But how I got to this is when you scroll down a year ago, you see me talking into the camera like an AI version of myself, because I thought, oh, I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a Fortune 500 consultant. People want to listen to my tips. And so I just talk into the camera and it sounds like super expertise-y. No one cared. 300 views on the video. And so I had to iterate and say, maybe people don't like to see my face talking into the camera, giving them unprompted tips. Maybe I will use my advantage and just use my camera roll that's full anyway, my voiceover, and that's it, right? And so you have to first find that, what is the angle you like? Now I added more things where I just give my husband my phone and say, record, I have something to say, even if it's just 7 seconds. We're literally going shopping somewhere or buying groceries, and I say, I'm thinking about something and I have makeup on.
Nice.
Put the phone, let me talk about it for 7 seconds, and that's it. And the funny thing is, as women, by the way, if you feel like you don't have enough ideas, your brain is meant to have ideas, not to hold them.
Yeah.
So instead of thinking, oh yeah, I have so many ideas, let me think about it tomorrow, write them down in this moment.
Yes.
If you have an idea at 3 a.m, you know it's going to be gone when you wake up. So write it down. And I always write them down in notes, and whenever I feel like creating, I have something that I can shoot, right? That I never run out of ideas. So that's the first. The second is, now that you've posted, you need to, your posts are not for you, it's for your audience.
I love that.
So again, if I like to talk into the camera and no one listens and no one watches, that why would I keep doing that? So I have to see what people like. Now I recorded this, it gets more views than usual. Let me see how I can test it. Do I make it shorter? Do I make it longer? Now I created a 20-second reel with my voice. They commented on that they like my voice and that it's super inspiring. Now let me make it 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Let me make it 40 seconds and see what performs. 7 seconds worked very well last October. 40 seconds works well now because Instagram is favoring the longer form content now. And so you just have to test. And then whenever you see feedback, or you see it in numbers, you see it in comments, you see it in DMs, listen to your audience, please. You can iterate and make more. And so some of the videos where I just told my husband, record, I have a story. They got a lot of clients reach out. Right? And so there's content that gets views, there's content that gets followers, and there's content that gets clients.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people going viral that never sold anything.
True.
There are a lot of people going viral that have 0 followers. And so you need to iterate between, you need to see what content gets me a lot of followers, what content gets me clients. And so when I tell my story, there's a lot of people can resonate with it, say, I want to learn it. And so I do a little bit more of that. Now I can iterate with that. Is it me in the street, my husband taking the video, or is it me talking to someone and it's behind the scenes video, or is it me talking to the camera again? And so things like you just need to test out. You can play with, and here are the things you can play. You can play with length of the video. You can play with angle. You can play with, let me put in a story here or a funny moment. You can play with captions even, or titles. You can see so many reels. I like to repost, like I said. And people, like my mentees comment on it, like, you posted this reel again. You posted this reel again. This reel again, and got 1 million views. Yes, because it's the same video with the same topic, like same tips, but a different hook.
Different version.
And so, for example, there's one video where I share things women learn too late in life.
Yeah.
And it worked quite well. So it had like 300,000 views. Now it's growing to 600,000. But it took some time until it grew. So I was like, maybe let me change the hook. And I changed the hook in 12 things women learn too late in life. Now it got 1.2 million views. It's the same exact video.
Incredible.
With a different hook.
Yeah.
And so you gotta just test out.
I love that. And, you know, your mentees were telling you post it again, but the people that come to you, they don't even see it. We often overthink. I mean, I don't know about you, but I sometimes overthink, oh no, I'm going to talk about that again, even though I know that repetition is key. And I tell it in my coachings, but when you are so personal, like sometimes as a woman, we tend to emotionally think about certain things, which is good, but could be a trap. I don't know if you agree to it, but I feel it for myself. Sometimes it traps me. Because in some moments you just have to think rational, and some moments emotional.
Yes.
And if you keep thinking emotional, then sometimes you have to get out of that in a way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, our emotions can trick us, right? And our intuition can trick us if we're not really in our intuition. And so there's feminine energy and masculine energy. Masculine is the logic, analytical, facts. And feminine is intuition, feelings. Like I can feel if I want to work with a person or not. I don't have to logically make a pro and con list. Like I can feel that. My husband is struggling with that, right? He makes a pro and con list, and then the person ends up not being good for our team. Yeah. Because men tend to be more in their masculine energy. So they're a little bit disconnected from their intuition sometimes. And so I always like to have that balance between the masculine and feminine, but also feel, and most of my clients are business women, business owners, that we sometimes go so much into the masculine energy that we lose connection to our feminine. And so we're always in survival mode. We want to control everything. We do everything by ourselves because we pride ourselves on doing everything by ourselves, but then we get overworked and overwhelmed when we do. We can't ask for help. The passion that it started as a passion is now feeling like a burden. All of these things, it has a lot to do with not being able to tap into our feminine and making things feel soft, and productivity and discipline being like romanticizing those things because it's so important for us. And the same with like when we connect to things like, oh, what will people think? What will people say about this? We need a balance of, let's look at the numbers and then let's see what actually like I feel about this myself. And so we need that balance of feminine energy.
I love when you mentioned asking for help, and you talked about your husband helping you so many times, right? I think having partner, no matter if this is friends, family, or whomever, having the right environment to grow is so crucial as well.
But you also work with your husband.
Yes, I do.
What is the pros and cons?
The pros and cons?
Yeah.
It gets wishy-washy. I don't know. I love that you asked me the question. I would love to ask it back in a second. But you need to have certain borders where you are like, this is time to work. Still being, I mean, because you follow the same goal. You're building a family. You have dreams that you want to achieve together, which makes it even more powerful. Because you're like digging in the same place instead of at two different places. And you get to know the person from different angles. But you need to be forgiving a lot of times. I don't know if you agree, but as a woman then in business, as you said it, and having a man who has a lot of masculine energy, once a woman is too masculine, you need to balance it out because the man is like, but I'm the man, you know, even though I don't know, from Germany. And as I grew up from a single mother, I'm pretty strong in my personality. But you learn, you grow. How do you experience it now? I want to ask you as well, because you have a child. A lot of people, they have children thinking it's a burden. I don't want to call it burden, I'm sorry, I take it back, but as something holding them back instead of something making them grow even more.
I mean, it's another unfair advantage. Like I kept my pregnancy secret.
Nobody knew it. Yes, I know.
Until like 2 months postpartum, because it's just something that I feel like it doesn't have to
Personal.
be on social media. Although I already had 20,000 followers at the time, and when I shared that, hard launching the baby, I got so many mothers reach out to me and say, "Now I want to work with you."
Yeah,
because now you understand what I'm going through.
I love that.
And so it's another unfair advantage.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a challenge. I think for me, it has taught me that I wasted a lot of time before the baby. Like the way that you procrastinate.
Now you have to move.
Yes. But even now when I started to get pregnant, I understood how I neglected myself, because once you get pregnant, you look out, what are you eating? Are you sleeping enough? Do you get enough water?
I love that.
When you're in your business, you don't. Like
True.
you're just like, I'm just gonna
It's just
like
me.
this. Just a protein bar, like, it's fine until
True.
dinner.
Yeah.
And so prioritize yourself, understand like what you're going through. You shouldn't start respecting your body when you start having kids. Like it's a bit too late. Although I was an athlete, I was always healthy. It was still that thing, right? When it comes to marriage, I think my husband and I, we don't have like, this is when we work and this is when we don't.
True.
But he is very good at saying, today you take off.
Nice.
Or now we're going to go celebrate. Even if it's like small wins.
Yeah.
Like we didn't do this, or we didn't have this mistake. We're going to go celebrate with like sushi or whatever. And so that is amazing. Our relationships actually started as a business.
Nice.
So I pitched him my business back when I was in Malaysia.
Nice.
And so it always started this way. Like we were friends, like we were first business partners, then friends, and then we got married.
Beautiful.
And so for us, the lines are very blurry. I think number one, you need to understand feminine and masculine energy. He needs to understand that as
100%.
well. And so when you're like procrastinating on that day and you're like, I can't focus, and he knows it's 10 days before your period, and that's why like there's not going to be a discussion why you're lazy or like why this is not happening. Put it in your calendar that your cycle syncing is a big thing.
True.
Number two, feminine energy in terms of let the control go.
Yeah.
So for 5-6 years, I did the business relatively by myself. I wouldn't say by myself, because he was always behind me. Like he would be the one buying me the equipment so I can record my podcast. Nice. He bought my first microphone so I could record my podcast. But it was always like, I need to do this. I need to control this. And so now I'm like, I don't want to hire. I don't want to run meetings. I don't want to think about finances. I don't want to do accounting. Can you do that? And he does it because he's good at it. He doesn't mind. And that's the beautiful thing, just having boundaries in terms of what you do in the business.
100%.
I do everything creative, vision. We still come together to brainstorm and define the vision together. But I give him all the tasks that
you don't want. But he likes it.
And
that's a good puzzle piece.
Yes, that's the good thing. And so the feminist back in the days when I was like, feminist,
Yes, I have to be the strong.
Everything by myself. I'm the CEO of the company.
Yes.
Now I would be happy to say he's the CEO.
Yes.
But I'm the face of the brand. I'm the creative behind. But I don't need to have this title just to feel like I accomplished something.
And it's your husband at the end of the day. If he's if he brings in success, that's your success.
And he's my biggest mentor. He's my biggest inspiration. He's my biggest support. Alhamdulillah. One of the things that you said is really interesting, and I think that is so different when you can dig in the same place. Yeah. Right? Is everything that comes in the business goes back into the business.
100%.
It's not like 50-50, someone runs away with the money.
Yeah.
Everything comes back.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love doing is, even like if you don't work with your husband, like this is for you, make your business your lifestyle. And so what I mean by this is, what is your perfect lifestyle? What is the ideal lifestyle you would like to live? For me, it was, you tell me first. The perfect lifestyle, like how would you like to spend your year, your day?
I love that you're asking me questions as well. I would love to just feel like I want to see me growing because I'm still 29. So I still have like, I don't have kids. As you said it, once you have kids, you're like thinking in a different way. So you mean like generally how I would love to imagine my year or my day-to-day life? Close to my family, social,
having
being
time
spontaneous. Having time
so
for
flexibility, being able to control your day. Yeah.
Exactly. And as I said, growth stories, which I mean personal growth. I don't just look at what type of,
Like
how much I reach people.
Out, nutrition.
Exactly.
Like
being healthy as well. And all of these things. But for me, like I've realized I need to be social. Once I'm social, there's people, they don't like to be social.
Yeah.
I moved from Germany to Dubai and I was by myself and I left my family and most of my friends. I mean, I had my husband, but I've realized that this took me some time to adjust. And now when I find people where I'm like, we have the same values, you get that energy fueled in. Not everyone feels this, but if you are currently might feeling a bit down, you need to find communities like you have it with Humanities, or anyone that can help you to get that people around you that back you up. And the way we have our husbands, almost like they're cheering us up or we're cheering them up.
So you're giving a perfect example. No, you're giving a perfect example. So your business, right? You have a podcast, which forces you to meet people. Yeah. And you're good at meeting people. Like you get energy from that. Yeah. Right? So you build your business around that lifestyle, right? True. And so for me back in the days, it was like, I want to travel. Yeah. And I want to create content. I want to feel like I'm in a movie of my own life.
I love that.
And I want to be flexible, right? Be in control of my own time and everything. And I always want, like, I don't want to not work. It sounds very weird, but I like work because I like to see the impact my work has.
I love that.
And so when you're thinking about the perfect lifestyle you have, I want time with my kids, I want to travel, I want to meet people, then you can build your business around that. So whenever I was doing my 9 to 5 plus my business for 5 years, and we never had vacations where we were literally, we're going to go now on an island and just relax. We would go on an island and relax, but we would go there and we would schedule meetings. We would schedule a podcast. We would get someone who can take drone shots. We would create a bunch of YouTube videos on the island because it's an amazing place. Yeah. I would create content all the time. And so I would always think if I had a movie crew, a film crew with me, how would my life look like? And once you do that, it starts to merge into that. So for 5 years, every single vacation that I took was either I took a holiday so I could travel to Munich for a keynote speech or to Dublin for a keynote speech because I needed to take the day off in order to do that. I would take a vacation to create a course. So that vacation was really dedicated to not relaxing, but create the course. Okay. So you can launch it when you go back to work. Or I would take the vacation and we could go to a beautiful place where we could also shoot content, get into meetings, meet people.
It's almost like you're making it sweeter by adding something you love. Yeah. And that's so how that you adjust it.
So that it can become that later on.
Yeah. True. That's really helpful if you're somebody that, I worked in corporate, and in corporate it's like so strict. It's like you have this and you have that, and when you own your
Monday
business,
to Friday, and then on Saturday, Sunday you would relax. Everyone is like Monday, like what did you do on the weekend? I'm like, work.
But
why would you want to work 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, and then be so exhausted that you need to take off and then dread going back to work the next week?
But I'm curious, have you ever felt like, because, when you work in corporate, there's certain routines. And then when you own your business, and I don't know if you heard that people struggle with this, it's almost like you're losing your routines. Yeah. And you like to maybe, having control. Did you ever felt this? Or do you, what are your experiences and thoughts on this? I don't know, because you work with bigger, but you only help them in a way. You didn't work corporate from 9 to 5. I believe you were always.
No, I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I thought you were only consulting them.
No, I was at Adidas 9 to 5. Oh, wow. I was in the team. I was working on a lot of projects that were not in my team, so I did brand strategy. Yes. But I worked on designing the Adidas hijab, Adidas modest wear, modest swimwear. I'm not a designer, but they brought me in because they saw me, right? Yeah. And I was talking about these things. So I had a lot of different projects that were not in my 9 to 5, but I was still. The funny thing is, I always knew that I didn't want to do a 9 to 5. So it was always a means to an end. Yeah. For me, it was an incredible, possibility to work with a brand like Adidas.
It is incredible.
Like, see the behind the scenes. How do they create content? How do they work with big people? I was interviewing like Run DMC, and there was Pharrell, and it's like crazy things happening that you don't see when you're outside of a company. And so I learned so much, but in my mind, I always knew that this was
like
not
it.
for the. No, it's not like it. It's just.
I mean, like the 9 to 5 in a way, the more flexible way.
It was
I didn't
not
mean
something that I would be doing for the next
long term.
40, like 20 years.
So you value time.
So it was different to me.
Yeah.
So when you have a 9 to 5 and you have a side hustle, I always recommend using your 5 to 9 before and after your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
What are you doing at 5 a.m. to 9 a.m.? What are you doing from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.?
I love that.
Thinking that you will sleep between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m., which is
Eventually.
8 hours. Okay, it's enough. But even if you just use the first hour of the day to just relax and not sleep, big difference. Meditate, do yoga, have a nice breakfast, and then 1 hour before work, you work on your business. You can get so much done in like a year if you work 1 hour on your business every day.
It's possible, right? It's just.
But you talked about a routine, right?
Yes, I was curious about if you're missing. I'm somebody who likes routines, or maybe it's more like having the control, because when you're starting your business, it almost feels like you're dangling all the balls. Like you're like,
for sure.
How do you think it could help people to get back that control, feel like you're in control?
I'm a very practical person. So I'm going to tell you first the mindset shift and then the practicality. The mindset shift is if you are at work at 8 a.m. because your boss tells you to. If you work at a coffee shop and you need to take out the trash, and you take out the trash. But if you want to launch your podcast on Tuesday, you don't. Why? Because you have a lack of self-respect for yourself.
It's crazy, right?
And that is really hard to stomach. Like you have more respect to someone that pays you. You need to wait a year until you get a 50-cent increase of your salary, and you don't respect yourself and your own goals. So that's the first shift that needs to change.
True.
If you want to achieve, if you're not, like, keep disrespecting yourself. And number 2, let me be very practical, because I love to be practical.
Yeah.
I love to cut my days into 3 days. Okay, so we're not having one day where we stretch our tasks
to the whole day,
to the entire day, and then we end up working at 9 p.m. because we procrastinated the entire morning. We can cut it into 3 days, and again, like my husband taught me this skill. Is so amazing. The first day is when you wake up. So let's just say 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. The second is from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And the third is from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And you basically take as if it's a full day. So you're thinking, what do I do today, right? From 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm going to do creative tasks, because the first thing in the morning, you have your creative juices flowing. You don't want to like spend it on like answering emails.
True.
So whatever creative you can do, like do it. Maybe you do a morning workout, even if just like yoga for 5 minutes on YouTube, already enough. Nice breakfast, and you just focus on this one project you want to get done. Maybe you want to design your website, or you want to write something for your course, or you want to like, I don't know, develop the project for a client, something creative. The second part of the day is, I would say, like social. So from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., this is when you schedule meetings. This is when you answer emails. This is when you text your clients. This is where you do everything that has to take your social energy. Don't do that in the morning, because it's going to drain your energy for the entire day. Do that the second day.
Interesting. Okay.
That's also when you have a nice lunch and maybe some stretching in between meetings. Okay. And then the third day is just knowledge. You listen to audiobooks, you watch YouTube videos, you do that course, you do that, I don't know, you have a mentor that gives you tasks, I don't know what it is. And maybe you do like a workout, like a proper workout, like going to the gym or something.
Leave it out.
And because you have the 3 days in one, you get so much more done. Like sometimes I work out twice a day, because I'm like, oh, I already did this in the last 2 hours. Nice. I can get this in. And if you have a 9 to 5, you do the 5 to 9, 9 to 5, 5 to 9.
Yeah. I like that, because then this gives you the feeling of I've achieved things instead of procrastinating. And we talked about this a lot of times, that I just love everything that you shared. Maybe one more adder about procrastination, because you mentioned before the baby you were procrastinating and it helped you. Yeah. How can you solve it if you don't have a baby? I mean, people that have children will understand this. But like, for instance, a lot of people they might live by themselves or think that they need to dedicate a certain time not being social, draining themselves, thinking, oh, I need to use that time now to build my business, and procrastinate even more instead of using this method that you just told. What helped you in procrastination? Was there a trick you'd like to share with us?
I mean, one of the things that I like is when I get up. So there's two methods. I don't know which one works for you. So sometimes I'm in my masculine energy. Sometimes I'm in my feminine. So in my feminine energy, and it's really funny because I just came back from recording my entire feminine in business course. So it's like everything is very clear in my mind. When I'm in my feminine energy, I like to start. No, let me talk about masculine energy first. So, if I'm in a masculine, I'm like, oh, this is hustle. You know, like this is a hustle week. I like to get up and directly start work.
Okay.
Like literally 30 seconds after getting up.
Yeah.
Because then you trick your body into you're there.
You need to get going.
You're in it. You're not checking anything on your phone.
Yeah.
You're not getting distracted by a extensive morning routine. You're just getting into work. And so I usually am really in my flow state because you're literally going from the whole night up, like your thoughts and information is just marinating in your brain and you directly put it into work.
I love that.
And you get it done. And so you don't have to do anything after those 2 hours because you get so much done. What you can do then is front load. So look at your to-do list for the next day. First of all, get a to-do list. And already take two or three things from the next day. So your anxiety goes down because anxiety is just a sign that there's something you can do you're not doing anything about. Now, if I'm in my feminine energy, right, I get up and I'm thinking I want to get up at, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., doesn't matter. And the first thing I do is something I love doing. Like there's no work for the first hour. Zero work, okay? There's always everything that is either hacking my happy hormones or that is making me enjoy life. Like I'm the main character of a movie. So what you can do is you can get up, you can put some nature sounds or affirmations or like lo-fi music, whatever you like. And you make yourself warm water, you brush your teeth, you make yourself... you put on yoga or you go like workout. Now people are going to say, oh, workout is like work. No, because workout, not to like get the dream body or like lose weight. It's for your mental health.
Yeah.
And it's for hacking your happy hormones because you release endorphins, which literally makes you happy, which makes you more productive later on. Now you've done whatever workout it is. I like to do yoga in the morning because it's also stretching involved. Sure. And then you make yourself a nutritious breakfast. It could be, making a matcha and like getting cereal, like homemade cereal, oatmeal made in honey and some like berries and yogurt, like nothing sweet because it spikes your blood sugar. Then you drop again and then you procrastinate. Okay. And so the first hour, by the way, if you get up and you're like so drained and everything is just giving you anxiety, why don't you watch 20 minutes of your favorite show? You can do that because you woke up an hour earlier to only do the things you like doing.
I love that.
And then you get dressed because as women, we love to be beautiful. The more beautiful we are, the more confident, and confidence brings us productivity. And then we get to work. Because we all know these days where we stay in our PJs on the couch trying to be productive. Lazy. And we just like, nothing works. True. So get dressed. When the hour is ready, you start getting into work. But everything before that is just for your own amusement.
That is so valuable. And I love your experience. I could talk for hours and hours with you, especially because you're so calming. I mean, it's incredible. Thank you for sharing all those thoughts. To end this great podcast today with you, thank you for being here. I would love to get to know maybe one last thing you would love to share with people that are looking up to you and saying, how did she do it? I want to do that too. What would you like if you could share something that you feel personally really much as well and that you share with your mentees? I would be curious if there's something.
That's a good question. I think two things. If you're looking at anyone, it doesn't have to be me or someone else where you're thinking, I could do this. Like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not where she is? I always see jealousy as a sign that this is written for you.
Okay.
Because if you think, oh, I could do this, it means deep down you could do this. Because I feel, and I have the strong belief that if we have thoughts in our mind and we have visions for ourselves, it's written for us by God that we can actually achieve this. We just have to find a way how.
Yeah.
And so when you're jealous of someone, how to learn from them? Do what they do instead of thinking listening to random people. And ideally, if you can, become friends with them.
Yeah.
So always when I see someone she's where I want to be, how can I become her friend?
Yeah, true.
How can I text her, comment on her posts, create a connection? Because when someone keeps seeing you show up in their feed, they're like, oh, okay, I started to getting to know this person. And the other point is, people always say comparison is the thief of joy. And I do agree in some way. And in this way, I don't agree, because if it's jealousy, I see it as a sign that you could have the same. If it's just I'm comparing myself and I'm so this is horrible, I always ask myself, do I actually want their life? I don't have to be a CEO of a huge startup, right?
Yeah.
And so compare yourself only on the factors that you actually would like to have. And so, for example, one of the things that helped me grow online is I saw someone that grew really fast and I was like, I could do the same. So I took it as an inspiration and used my jealousy and said, I think I can do the same. So I did exactly what she did. I didn't copy, but I copied the strategy.
Yeah.
So this is what I always like to see when you want to be successful in something. Don't copy the actual thing they're doing. Copy the strategy.
Yeah.
Oh, she's posting every day. Oh, she's sharing ecstatic videos. I can do this. She's sharing her story. I can do this. Whatever, even in business, if someone has something that you would like, take it as an inspiration and copy the strategy.
I love that.
It's a sign that it's written for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope we do that again. Valentina, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, done.
That was great.
Danke.